Join us today as we talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Welcome back to those who've been here before. Welcome to those who are new to the channel. My name is Bobby. This is the Geek Cabal channel. I'm joined today with Jim and his son Owen. And we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And on the off chance you don't know, it's a picture of Indiana Jones behind us. Hopefully you've seen at least one of the Indiana Jones movies and you know that, but maybe not.
I say, and if you can guess the movie poster, let us know in the comments down below.
Yeah, I don't think you can see the title, so
Maybe we did that on purpose. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
But yeah, so these two saw it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks. Yeah, it would have been the week.
As of this recording, like it's probably gonna be a week before this is up, so add some time to that. But and I went to go watch it myself yesterday, as of this recording. So we have some thoughts. You want to go in any particular order?
Well, just before we go into in depth, I think first of all, it was a generally positive experience. I didn't think it was. I think with movie reviews nowadays, you just don't know what you're getting because Rotten Tomatoes and stuff like that just doesn't seem accurate on this anymore. I mean, you can look at what the one score because you have
You have the critic score, and then
yes.
you have the viewer score.
Yeah, the viewer score you can usually go off of
unless it's one that they intentionally manipulate, which they usually
exactly.
tell you that they do. And to the more, I guess, conspiratorial-minded people, maybe more observant people in this case, they can't help but notice that only happens with movies of a certain caliber, and that they want to succeed. In other words, because for whatever it's worth, they're probably very clearly in the pocket of several of the major studios, notably Disney. So they will definitely, like, if it's getting, even if it's not review bombing, if it's legitimate reviews, they'll turn them off and be like, oh, well, it's just review bombing, even though it's not.
But I mean,
but that doesn't, I don't believe that applies to this movie, just to be clear. I'm just talking in general. So in general, yes, like Jim said, you can probably trust the audience score more than the critic score. If they ever actually agree and say it's good, it's probably a good movie.
Yeah.
If say it's bad, you might want to steer clear.
But at the same time, there were a lot of people that had a lot of negative opinions going into it, a lot of things like that. And I try to, I take that all with the, just a grain of salt, just to understand that, some of these movies aren't going to be so bad, and some of them are going to be terrible, and it's hard to say anymore. But anyways, based off of what other people had said, I kind of went into it as like I'm just going to go in, see if it, my own, not try to take into what people had said about it, and like I said, it was honestly for me, it was a generally favorable experience. I thought it was good. I mean, it's I'm one of those old folks that's going to say it doesn't quite live up to the original three.
Well, it doesn't. Keep going.
But no, but I mean, there's going to be there's going to be younger people that are going to say it's better than the original three, and that's fine. I mean, that's why these are all opinions and all that stuff. But do I think it's a worthy sequel? Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't think it's anything that was so bad that shouldn't have been made, or way better than anything that was made prior to it. I mean, I think it's an okay movie. It was good. It was entertaining, and definitely like the twist a little bit more in this one compared to the previous entry. Again, not the best twist, but still, it was an interesting one for that.
Uh, this is coming from someone who's only seen the first movie, so I don't have three other movies to base this opinion off of, but I enjoyed the movie. I believe it was pretty good.
Well, I did overall enjoy the movie. I'm not one of those people who is like, oh, this is this absolute trash or anything. I can see where some of those people are coming from, to be clear. I just don't hold the same opinion as them. I do have some issues with the movie, and I'll probably get into those here in a second. Overall, it'd be hard for me to place it like how I'd rank it with the others, because for me, that's hard to do because if I were, it would be a two-way tie for first, a very solid third, and then a two-way tie for last. So, to be clear, this one's a two-way tie for last, with Temple of Doom being the third, and the other two of the originals being tied for first. Having said that, I'm not a hater of the Crystal Skull, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So don't think me saying, oh, it's the same as that means that it's bad. It's not. It means it has flaws. But overall, I still found it entertaining. I'm one of those rare folks that thought the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was actually mostly entertaining. Um, but yeah, no, most of my complaints largely fall on a single character and just a few things with Indy. Like, I get the idea of, okay, he's the aging character, he's one last hurrah. Like, there's a right way to do that and a wrong way to do that. And I think this movie comes really close several times to being the wrong way. The right way is the one last hurrah. Maybe the guy lives, maybe he dies. Who knows? Usually dies. But they go on their one last hurrah, but they go out on top. Yes, they're older. They might have to rely on a younger system of some kind, but they have their wizened years behind them, and they're still at least competent with everything. And so then they go out on top. They don't have that sad breakdown moment, which unfortunately Indy has in this movie at the end. And I thought the resolution to that was not good. And that was my, if I had one major problem with the movie, it's that. To go into spoilers, because obviously we're going to here, they do in fact travel back in time to ancient Rome, the siege of Syracuse, and Indy is essentially like, no, just leave me here. This is history. I'll just live here. And the woman, what was her actual name? I'm not going to call her Wombat.
I'm going to call her Wombat because that's
right,
what I
fine,
thought.
Fine, I'm going to call her Wombat.
Is Wombat Shaw.
So Wombat is like, no, you can't. You've been shot. Like, you will die because they don't have medicine here. It's just going to be a slow death involving leeches. Like, you're going to become part of history real quick. Which, is a compelling argument, but, and he's like, oh, you've got to come back. The world needs you or somebody needs you. And he quite accurately was like, who? And she couldn't answer that question. And instead knocks him out like a feeble old man and just drags him along.
Well,
and I just thought that was just so I thought that was terrible. That was as bad as anything they did to Luke in the Star Wars trilogy. She should have been, what about Marion? And he should have come to his senses and gone with them.
Well, and that was my problem kind of with the whole movie is that the way that they handled Wombat. I think her journey to redemption was just, I don't think she was redeemed by the end of the movie. I mean, yeah, she did some nice things, but I mean, she pretty much got people killed that were decent people.
Yeah, like I said, I had the one big problem, namely around one character. That's it, and it's not so much like a lot of the reviews talk about. Oh, she's snarky and quippy and does things better than Jones. Like, well, no, for the most part, she doesn't. And with the thing she does is because she's in her 20s and he's like 70 years old. Like, of course she's going to be more physically fit than he is. Like, no shit. But no, it's and not even the snarky like, oh, that's capitalism, even though that is in fact not how capitalism works. It's more the whenever she's preaching and being judgmental to Jones, calling him a grave digger, a grave robber, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're going to take this thing and sell it in an illegal antiquities market. Like, you are actually worse than he is. Like, you have no place to preach here, lady. Like, that was a very holier than thou moment. And I was like, just shut up.
And she had the very possibility of having a decent redemption arc. And I mean, my biggest thing is that all they really needed to do with that is have her claim, well, no one really got hurt before, or the people that got hurt before were bad guys in the first place. And then when Antonio Banderas' character gets killed, then she could say, "Oh crap, these are decent people that are getting hurt because of me," and then having a decent redemption arc. But no, immediately after that, they get off the boat, and then she starts celebrating, and Indy says the one most human thing I think any movie character probably has ever said after people have died recently is, "You're celebrating, and people like everyone else is dead right
Yeah,
now."
my friend just died back there. Is basically what he said. And to her credit, she stopped celebrating. She does have that
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, he's probably right look on her face. But
you
yeah,
you think that would be the start of the redemption arc, but it's not. She's still
yeah,
kind of like, well, money still.
yeah. Although I won't lie, I did like whenever they're climbing up to the tomb and he stops for a moment. She's like, "Why you stopped?" And he's like, "Well, I'm thinking about my back and my shoulders." And she's like, "Oh," and he starts climbing past him. He's like, "Hey, you haven't had to drink the black blood of the Kali and something else." And I was like, "All right, Temple of Doom reference. Didn't get that in any of the other movies, I'm pretty sure."
Well, but you think that drinking the from the Holy Grail would probably have canceled that out.
You would think so. You would think drinking from the Grail, like he's probably gonna live to be like 150.
But
Between that and channeling the power of the Shankara stones.
there are a couple other points in the movie in which the Holy Grail may have saved his skin.
Oh yeah, hey, I've said it before. I don't think I've said it on here, but what he went through in the first three movies, if he would have gotten shot and a bullet just bounced off of him, I'd have been like, all right, makes sense. Like I'm pretty sure he protected the fridge in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. For those of you that don't know, somehow he wrote out a nuclear detonation in a refrigerator in that movie. A lot of people hated that scene. I actually liked the scene where he comes up over the hill and you see the mushroom cloud. It's very much the era of the Nazis is over. We're in a future age now. And yet, here in part 5, we're back to fighting the Nazis. Don't get me wrong, they're infinitely punchable, but like, the commies were right there. Like, they could still be the bad guys now. Like, now, not in the 60s. But, Anyway.
Um, so kind of going to the special effects, because I think really when it comes to this before in the previous movie, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, my biggest kind of gripe on the Crystal Skull movie was that the CG just was used heavily and not in a good way, kind of thing. Versus here, I think they kind of went back. They did obviously do some de aging of Harrison Ford's character,
Yeah,
and
for the opening scene there.
yeah, and I thought it looked really good. It didn't take me out of it saying, "Well, that looks a little, like Grand Moff Tarkin's,
The
Peter
only,
Cushing."
the
You
only
mean resurrecting Peter Cushing?
Yes.
That wasn't de-aging. That was de-dying.
Yeah, well, but I mean, it's kind of the same technology though,
Yeah.
because that was not Harrison Ford running down the train. 'Cause
What? Jim, you're shattering all my illusions here. Stop. You're destroying
well,
my heroes.
I mean, the only thing you can really say that looked off about the opening scene, well, not looked off, sounded off, was his voice didn't really match up.
Hmm. I'll have to keep an ear out for that. An eye out. That won't do any good. Keep an ear out for that if I ever watch it again,
well,
which I'm sure I will at some point.
and I'm glad they still haven't decided to get rid of the over the top punching sound effects in the Indiana Jones movies.
Yes, the over-the-top punch, and I heard what sounded like a modern update to the Wilhelm scream at least once. That's like the scream that you hear in movies. No one actually knows who did it. They attributed it to the stuntman who was on the set on the day it was recorded, and it was like Wilhelm. And they're pretty sure it was him, but they're not 100% certain because it was recorded in like 1940 something. But yeah, it's the over the top scream that you hear in all of the Indiana Jones movies, most of the Star Wars movies, most of the movies that involve a scream. But yeah, it sounded like there was kind of an updated version of that from one of the Germans towards the beginning.
No, so like that, and most of the set pieces were, like I said, decent. The Roman battle at the end was really good. But then again, obviously there was flaws to it. One, I want to know where do these people find these henchmen that are just giant bodybuilder type henchmen?
Yeah, I mean, there's that guy, but also like, where did like dozen other Nazis come from in the modern day? Were they in Argentina that I wasn't paying attention to? Pretty sure they weren't.
Eh,
I'm pretty sure that they were flying somewhere near where they intended to be.
Yeah, I think so. Because
they probably picked him up. I
it's
think they
the
picked him up at the airport.
well, sure, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's the '60s at that point. Like were they like just leftovers that somehow still fit in their uniforms? Were they their kids?
Well, and I think a couple of the people were tag-alongs. They just were like,
Yeah, his two goons were because if you
yeah.
paid attention, the one was reading a book on how to speak German at the very beginning. He knew what the plan was.
Well, I think at that point, I think most people kind of was like, okay, I see where this is going.
Well,
I
sure, we the audience did, but
Yeah,
I mean, the people in the movie not necessarily.
but
But that does bring me to one point, if I may. I did kind of question, having been to the '60s. I'm not entirely sure why he was so committed to helping Germany win the war. Like, maybe it's just me, but I would have gone back in time and told my younger self, hey, just go to the United States. Germany's going to lose. You'll make a fortune in the United States. Like, it was not like he was going to magically become the Fuhrer, you know?
yeah,
And,
that
and I did like Indy's incredulous, like, wait a minute, what the hell kind of Nazi are you wanting to go back and kill Hitler? And he's like, the kind that knows all the mistakes he made. I was like, yeah, this guy paid attention. But you know what I'm saying.
but I mean, at the same time, a lot of scientists or archaeologists, whoever, like his character, they used the Nazis to, further their own goals, and that's the way I thought it was going to go in the beginning. It's like, oh, he's just going to further his own goal and not restart, or revamp the whole Nazi war effort. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that's a little much. But no, I was gonna say there's still obviously some scenes that's like, well, this doesn't work. Like, the one where the guy was handcuffed to the bodybuilder, the little kid was
Yeah.
handcuffed to the bodybuilder, and they're underwater, and somehow he's able to pull his arm and handcuff him to the fence underwater, which would require him being able.
Well, no, the current was pushing him that way. So,
Correct.
so he's using the current and had a hold of grate, and all he had to do was get his own arm uncuffed and then cuffed to the thing. He didn't really have to pull all that much because the other guy's trying to get through. He's not
Yeah.
trying to go back.
Yeah.
Even though the hole's way too small for him.
I know, but I mean, it still seemed like a feat that he wouldn't be able to do because, I mean, I give him that he can lockpick and everything, but
Yeah, I could tell that they were gonna fall in the river because you got this big guy on this rickety wooden bridge.
Yeah.
besides them falling into the water, the rest of the sequence I actually like. Well, maybe not the spiders. I mean, that was kind of cliche. I was just waiting for that scene to happen when they were walking through. I was like, there's going to be something here. There's going to be spiders. There's going to be something, and it's just like, oh well, yeah, sure. But I did kind of like the puzzles, though I didn't quite understand the whole water puzzle, like throw stuff into the. Like I get displacing the water,
Yeah.
but
Let me explain.
but well, and like I said, this is where at least my confusion came from. You can explain it. But that means every single time you'd have to make sure that pool was full with water.
I don't know if there was another time. Who else has been there?
True, true.
Although it does lead to the other question of
How the hell did you set it up in the first
yeah,
place?
because you're dead.
Well, if it was a pharaoh or something, you'd be like, well, yeah, the workers just were put down there to die later.
Right.
But
But no, the water displacement thing. Once you saw the aerial shot, that symbol it would have been raised above the water, so you had to dump stuff in to raise the water level to fill the symbol to trigger the thing.
can you just piss in it?
I suppose you could, but the methane would probably kill you first. So yeah,
Yeah, well, maybe you'd get a good vision while you were in there.
that's potential.
And if you don't know, that's what the oracles used to do is they would go into like a chamber like that, get high on all the fumes, and then supposedly that's where they got their visions from. Oh, being serious, that's
Yeah, or just be like Apocalypse from the X-Men and chase the dragon.
so. But no, I mean, I thought the set piece was decent. I mean, it kind of made sense, and it definitely led up to like, well, crap. He's obviously because he died holding the device, right?
Who?
Or no, or that's how they found the other half of the device
Yeah,
because he was holding the other half.
yeah.
So, well, you know, this is what you get when you. It's been a couple weeks since you've watched the movie.
That's why easier to bounce ideas off of.
Yes, you have to correct me when I'm wrong on things, which I'm always wrong. So,
You're not always wrong, Jim.
quit yawning, jeez.
I'm not awning.
But yeah, there was one other thing, and well, there's a couple of things. There's one other thing that I don't consider this necessarily a flaw in the movie, but I'm still trying to figure out exactly what the German guy's plan is. By the way, one of the other flaws is I don't know about you guys, but I didn't catch his name in German. He says it once in the entire damn movie. And it's like a throwaway line. So,
Well, after he kind of got hit by a tree, I assumed he's a throwaway character.
no way. That was the guy that designed the Death Star. He wasn't just going to be in that opening sequence, along with Arnim Zola
Well, that's Arnold.
and Baron von Strucker.
Hmm.
A lot of Nazis on that train in multiple ways.
Huh.
Hail Hydra.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, no, so like, say he would have gone where he thought he was going to go, to 1939. Is he also still there? Like, was his plan to, because he was going someplace that he knew Werner von Braun was going to be, as far as talking about presumably the V-2 rockets, and he knew Hitler was going to be there. But is that because he was there? And if so, is he still there? Like, will there be two of him? And was his plan to like shoot Hitler and then tell his younger self, hey, somehow gain command of the German army and don't do these things?
Yeah, because that's how taking over an army works. You kill you kill your active leader, and everyone's just gonna fall in line and be like,
your older self from the future comes back, kills him. They can obviously tell it's you. He disappears, and you're sitting there holding a briefcase full of stuff that says, "Hey, you do these things and you'll win the war." Like, I'm just not seeing that plan work out. Like, because even if you do that, okay, you've taken out Hitler. Like, there's still other members of the high command.
well, we know how this all turns out. You go back in time, you kill Hitler, and the Russians rise, and then they have tanks with dual cannons that shoot rockets out of them.
Oh yes, the Command and Conquer Red Alert reference. I should have seen it coming. Just like Hitler should have seen it coming walking out of that art school whenever Einstein walked up, shaked his hand, and killed him. Somehow.
Yes, I like the fact that they sent Albert Einstein back to.
Well, he just took it upon himself. Like, that was just him in a lab somewhere. I think it was in New Mexico. And he goes back to one of the few times he knows exactly where he'll be, unguarded, coming out of prison, and shakes his hand, and then he's toast. And then at some point, the Russians go back and take out Einstein because they're losing. They want to take him out so they can get rid of the chronosphere and the weather dominator, and they do that, and they come back to the present, and all of a sudden Japan is attacking them instead, led by Sulu, and he's the emperor. And Tim Curry's the one kind of second fiddle in the Russian army, and they're like, all right, well, let's use our nuclear weapons. They're like, you're what? Like, they're like, oh shit, we took out Einstein. We don't have nuclear weapons. Like, we'll just have to use our conventional tanks, which thankfully we have a lot of. Unfortunately, the Japanese have, giant robots, because it's the weird Red Alert timeline. And all that's after dealing with the psychic guy that was on the Russian side.
I think we're getting a little bit off track here.
Well, not really. There were
not
psychics,
at all.
There were psychics on the Russian side in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. We're kind of there.
What? I've never seen.
Oh, that's right. You didn't see it. Yeah, the lead woman, Galadriel, she was a psychic, and for some reason had black hair. They too had a giant henchman. The ants got him.
Yes. But Owen, you will find on this channel there is no topic that's off topic. Well, I guess there's stuff that's off topic, but there's somehow we have to always make it on topic. So
Yeah,
feel free to roam.
yeah. I tell you what, Command and Conquer, there'd be a good movie.
When in Rome, do what the Romans do.
Yes, take down World War II era bombers with harpoons.
because
Yeah.
the planes were flying too low.
Yeah.
Yes, that was their problem. They're flying too low. They're not fast enough that the people can't aim and hit them.
Well,
So,
and I get that to a point. Like I get they when they flew through the wormhole thing that their plane stalled because of whatever reason, but that still doesn't make any sense why at some point they didn't fly higher.
well, they should have, but they're stooges trying to figure out what old commandant back there is going to do about it. And they're debating, well, do we fly higher? Do we go on a strafing run? Are we on anyone's side here? What the hell do we do?
I mean, so to speak, they're in the right place at the wrong time.
Yes. Yes, they did wind up in Syracuse. That's in Europe, not New York. And,
Well, at least
yeah.
we hope the Romans didn't invade New York.
Well, I mean, hopefully not, but maybe.
You never know. I mean, they're definitely up to debate on who was the first to actually, land in the United States at any point. Because
Yeah.
I know even on the West Coast, that supposedly that they found anchors from, like I believe, from Japan, like off the West Coast that were definitely of ancient, more ancient.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. You know?
So, but no, the other Syracuse. There we go.
Yeah, yeah, not in New York.
Yeah.
Not especially not.
Also, a comment made in the movie, by the way.
Well, I'm glad they did because I didn't know. I don't know. I thought maybe there was a Battle of Syracuse.
No, although I'm really going to throw you for a twist. Here in the U.S., there was a Battle of Athens.
Athens, Georgia.
I believe so. It's where the I think it's the World War II veterans is a corrupt, like thoroughly corrupt sheriff. No one believed the outcome of the election. They're like, all right, we're taking this in our own hands, and well, they overturned the election the other way. But I think it was Georgia. Yeah.
I mean, it still doesn't really compare to Paris, Texas.
There's Paris, Illinois, too. And now I found out of Paris, Kentucky. So
Yeah.
I'm just finding Paris's everywhere. Anyways, at least this movie, one thing I do like about the Indiana Jones movies is that they do at least show that these people travel, and they do it in the best way. Like I love the map
The map. Yeah.
because you don't have nobody cares how they got there, but just showing, oh, we went here, then we went over here, now we're over here, versus just globe trotting with like no budget, nothing in mind, just like yeah, we're just gonna go, we're gonna do all this stuff. Um, though
You mean like the average Christopher Nolan movie, where people just bounce around like three different spots around the globe for having one conversation somehow,
yeah, no,
and everywhere they go, like, oh, let's go do this thing, and you're like, I looked that up in real life. That cost $1 million to do that. These people don't think they've got $1 million.
but this also brings up that all the flying does bring up one thing is that the worst foreshadowing, like the one kid playing with flight controls in the middle of the casino.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're gonna have him fly something. I'm like, they could have explained this away in a million different things. Like, they're in a casino. There could have been a guy that was just outside showing him how to fly, or he's like, hey, I'm gonna take you up in the plane for a short jaunt or whatever. And no, he's running off of was it made out of cardboard?
Yeah.
And
Speaking of planes, at one point in the movie, Indy's accused of a double homicide and is able to board the jetliner and fly away.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that.
I mean, and I get it. You're not going to have the computer identification, but that one guy obviously immediately recognized him.
Oh, yeah, that kind of looks like you. I don't look at it. Wait a minute, that is you. No, it's not. And then, oh, hey, Sala. I was glad to see Sala. That was nice.
I was hoping to see Short Round.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we got Replacement Short Round. I'm going to call him Replacement Short Round because that's kind of what he was.
But you know who you
Not a bad.
Just to be clear, we're talking her sidekick or
Yes.
we're talking Mutt?
No, Mutt's dead.
I know, but like in the series in general.
No, yeah, her sidekick.
Okay.
Yeah, like her sidekick. He kind of took that place.
Because I kind of agree with the take from Honest Trailers. It was like, screw Mutt, this is Indy's real son right here. Sort of short round.
Yeah, you know, you'll notice they don't see Mutt in the trailers, and he's not in the movie because he's suffering from a severe case of dead.
Yeah. I mean,
At least they did mention him dying.
yes, at least they did mention it. It wasn't just a severe case of Shia LaBeouf. and his
He was too
erratic behavior.
he was too busy just doing it.
Yes.
Just do it.
Yeah. But yeah, yes, his fate was mentioned. Apparently, that happened while I went to go use the restroom, and so I found out about it later, conversing about the movie. Yeah, it was nice to see Karen Allen back as Marion. Wish we would have seen more of her. I've never understood how she didn't become a bigger star in Hollywood. Like, she's a competent actress. She's pretty, you know.
Actually, still looks good for her age. So
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a thought that went through my mind as like, damn, like these two are like in their 70s or 80s. Like,
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say because there was a moment where Harrison Ford was rocking without a shirt on, and I'm like, dude, I can only dream to look that good at that age. Um, and it's yeah. And I give up, I give it to to Harrison Ford. He definitely still was able to get around and do that. But I mean, at some point, he's going to have to. Well, I guess after he's General Ross a time or two, he'll.
oh yeah, that's right. He's got to go for the Disney trifecta and be in an MCU movie now. So yeah, General Ross.
Yeah, because I mean, at least if he does any action scenes, if he transforms into the Red Hulk, he can be
Yeah,
somebody.
I would have to assume that heavily figured into why he agreed to do it. He's like, so I basically just have to be this guy, then kind of scream a bit, then the CGI takes over. Like, all right, I'm on board.
Yeah, because isn't this like this third final his final production?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. There's worse movies to end on than an MCU movie, as long as it's a good one. As long as it's not like this is pure conjecture on my part because the movie's not out yet. But as long as it's not like the Marvels,
Yeah, you mean should be straight to DVD?
yeah, it looks like a Disney Channel movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, could still be good. We haven't seen it yet. I just don't think the fortunes of the MCU are going to turn around with that particular adventure. I could be wrong.
I don't know, and maybe we're just.
Jaded,
It's possibly, but
cynical.
I think they're starting to make people make these movies for a different audience, for different people, and I think that's kind of where the problem's coming in. I'm not saying you have to conform to everything. I'm not saying that you look at the comic book and say, okay, word for word, we're going to do this because no,
Well, no, it's a different medium.
yeah,
Like things will have to change in the translation. But no, kind of what you're talking about there, Jim. I was listening to a thing on YouTube earlier, and please, no one like unsubscribe for who I'm going to mention here, but here goes. Is Russell Brand, and he was interviewing the Critical Drinker, and yeah, I mean the Critical Drinker has torn this movie to shreds. He hates it, but and he said some other things that I do kind of agree with, not about this film, but in general. And we can maybe talk about that in another thing. But he was talking about, um, how maybe some of these things just kind of aren't for the same audience, and also that uh, that the problem isn't so much the movies themselves, the actresses or actors. In this case, since we're talking about the Marvels actresses, uh, it's that you know Ellen Ripley is a major popular female action hero. The first Alien movie is in the 70s. It's before me and you were born. The first Terminator movie is around that time. And Sarah Connor's a major female action icon. And but whenever they made those movies, they didn't go out on some massive press tour like, oh, look at us, we put a woman in the lead role. There was no Twitter to go on. There was none of that. They just did it. And it worked because they wrote rounded characters that had flaws, that were allowed to grow, and that were people. They weren't perfect. And that's kind of the problem is that, A, they make such a huge deal about who is in the movie instead of that it's a good movie. And the characters they're flat, they're flawless. That's like, as he pointed out, as the drinker pointed out, the absolute most basic storytelling to make you like the character is they have flaws, They have to overcome obstacles to achieve a goal. Then they achieve the goal. And they're a kind of likable person. That's it. That's all you have to do to make a likable character. People can relate to that because they have lives, they have goals, they have flaws, they have obstacles. You make it so they're perfect, it's like, okay, that works sometimes. I mean, the drinker kind of overlooks the fact that there's a number of 80s action movies where the characters are in fact flawless and basically just wade through bad guys like there's no tomorrow. And it's pure wish fulfillment. They're not great movies, like Commando, for instance. Entertaining, but I think he gets shot a couple times. A grenade blows up right next to him. He's fine. He throws a grenade. He kills 10 guys with it, even a guy like 20 feet away. It's obvious that I think it's John Matrix, is completely flawless in that movie. Aside from the one moment when he got arrested and had to be helped by his sidekick.
He's out there feeding the animals and picking trees up and
and so
flipping
basically his point was Hollywood knew how to do this. They were doing it as far as introducing characters that aren't the traditional just white hulking male action star. And somewhere along the way they just forgot, or they decided, oh, time starts now. Like when Jennifer Lawrence said, oh, female action stars owe a lot to me, and I'm pretty sure Sigourney Weaver was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, shit, I was an alien before you were born, lady. What the hell are you talking about? So, yeah, that's the problem. That's the mentality. And we saw it with Captain Marvel, and I have no reason to believe it won't exist with this movie. Even though Monica Rambeau was a more well-rounded character, and I'm assuming Kamala Khan is, because I haven't seen the series. But the problem is, are they going to suddenly make Carol Danvers a well-rounded character? Because if they don't, well, then the whole venture is pointless. It's wish fulfillment.
And I think and this I know we're going all over the place. This does actually kind of fall back onto Wombat.
We need the map.
But no,
if I were any good at all like digital stuff, I'd make that and put it in over top of this. But I'm not, so sorry, folks.
Because I think at least Wombat was at least a little more grounded in her abilities. She wasn't like over the top.
Yeah, she wasn't over the top, and everything like physically she's doing. It's like, okay, well, she's a woman in her 20s, like she's probably physically fit, whereas Harrison Ford's character in his presumably 70s. But, so sure, it makes sense.
But
she wasn't like picking up the tuk-tuk and throwing it at people or anything.
But I think it's less the physical, more of how people believe about how she's impossibly smug.
Well, she was kind of smug. She was impossibly smug.
And I think some of that, and honestly, I don't think she ever met her redemption arc. I think she did some nice things, but I don't think she learned really any sort of lesson about the whole thing. I think at the end she was kind of like, well, I don't want you to die, but why? Why did she not want Indy to die? She let everyone else die, but...
Well, I mean, it might have been old Antonio Banderas getting killed on the boat that finally changed her mind,
And it may... And if
they just poorly executed it.
And that may be.
Kind of like Anakin's fall to the dark side. All the pieces are there, but my God, is it a mess.
But when you were talking about, like kind of the whole strong female thing, I've seen a movie where they've done that, and they've done that right, and that was, and I'm hoping that they actually do come up with a sequel for it. They've been talks about it, and that's Alita Battle Angel. If you've ever watched it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. She is over the top strong, powerful, but
she doesn't start there. She starts as the other body, and it's not until she learns about the other parts. She has that journey, that going. Even though technically she already had those powers because of her body and everything, but like she didn't know that.
But
that's why a lot of it works with her, because it's the journey, And she was a likable character, so.
Exactly. But I mean, she really didn't have to do anything. I mean, really earn anything to get the powers. I mean, she just had to be like, okay, here's how I do this. Here's how I can punch people really hard and shatter people's faces and defeat giant robots and do all that kind of stuff. No, and if you haven't watched it, I believe I have it on Blu-ray. It is definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, I believe you do.
Yeah, and that was the major problem with Carol Danvers, was the movie is set up as a like when she gets her own memories back and discovers that the Kree have been screwing her over. The only thing that changes at all is which alien she's going to punch. Her personality is still exactly the same. Like, there was no switch at all, even though supposedly it's been repressed and everything else. And that's the problem, is that was the moment where, oh, right, I'm really this person from Earth, and these things matter to me, and these things matter. I know I can crack a joke and sing karaoke. It's like, no, I'm just going to have, smug face as I go punch the other aliens instead. You
And
know,
yet,
and that's the problem. That's where the movie really just kind of broke down, because the whole movie is set up for a change right there. Because you've seen, well, like a Resident Evil, the first one, whenever the one guy, whenever his memories all come back, all of a sudden he goes from, "Hey, I'm in on the plan," to "Screw you all and the horse you rode in on. I did all this. Peace out." It's an instant flip because his memories all come back. But with her, it's like, oh, she didn't need her memories. That's just who she is. Like, then what was the point? And that's the problem with the movie. There's no character growth at all there.
so what we're saying is that at least there was at least a little bit of character growth with Wombat. I think it's just, like I said, poorly executed. Again, just subtle changes, and I think you would have made her, because I think her intentions in the beginning made sense because she was just there for the money. She
Yeah.
duped an old man that she thought, and
Right. Well, I think the other thing with her, as far as on the character growth front, is the acknowledgement that she actually did care about the kid.
Yeah.
Because that one conversation, like, Harrison Ford, Indy could tell, she did care about the kid. She was generally trying to keep him out of trouble, and even though he was like committing crimes with her, she was trying to make sure he didn't like commit crimes against the wrong kind of people, kind of stuff. So like the undercurrents there, it's just it needed to go that little extra step somewhere along the line. And I think maybe that could have been, actually reasoning with Indy at the end and convincing him to come along. And then when they get back, see her actually get a hold of Marion to get her back into the picture. Maybe that would be where Indy would kind of like, no, it's just not going to work. And, she like goes out and gets on a payphone or something, then that's her deed to get back in, something resembling good graces.
you got something?
No.
Sound like you wanted something to say there.
Yeah. Sorry, Owen, if I cut you off or anything.
I don't have anything right now.
Okay.
Please try again later.
Sorry, the request you have is not available.
I took it as like the magic 8-ball answer. Yeah. Or is that one of them too?
I don't know. Probably not.
Indie.
Well, while you're putting that thought together, I just want to know: is that truly how robust a tuk tuk is?
I have no idea.
That-
I assume they've got to be like as close as a tank could be for something that size. Because as tiny as they are, they got to get hit by cars all the time and run into things, and like either that or people that drive them are just like fantastic drivers. So
Yeah, that tuk tuk survived a lot of battering.
yes,
We got hit by a car. It went down the set of stairs.
yeah.
And the worst thing that happened to it is they busted the radiator.
Well, in one of the Bond movies, Octopussy, Bond has a chase scene where he's in the back of a tuk-tuk and being chased by a guy with a blunderbuss. Bond's big plan is he takes his winnings from the casino and just throws them in the streets, so then all the people rush out and then they can't get through. But
Yeah, because bad guys don't run over innocents.
I think the idea was I think they were also in a tuk-tuk, so like they would have run over like a guy's leg and stopped because they just didn't have the mass and momentum.
Yeah, tuk tuk chasing. They were chasing after the Nazis, but also being chased by gangsters.
Yeah. Yeah, on that note, Owen, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm pretty sure compared to any of the other Indiana Jones movies, this has like 3 times the number of action sequences. It was pretty nonstop.
Well, and I think that's part of the generation of movies that we're running into. Owen did actually get to experience a classic the other day, and
Clash of the Titans.
no, he actually watched Big Trouble in Little China,
There we go.
Yeah.
and again, I watched that. And it's a pretty much a nonstop movie, but the way that they do the action, the way they do the character development, is just something you just don't see, these days.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the deleted scenes for it?
I have not.
There's first of all, there's a lot of deleted scenes, but there's two main ones that really stand out. Whenever Lopan has them prisoner, old man Lopan, and he's sitting there, he starts cursing at one of the monitors. He's like, cheap Japanese junk, and Wang's like, Malian. He goes, no, this monitor, and hits it. And the others really get to Grace Law's office, and she hands him that drink. Well, he asks her what's in it, and she rambles off all these ingredients and includes seahorse. And he takes another drink, and he's like, too much seahorse, and hands it back to her. Yeah, there's a rather lengthy deleted scenes on that one on the special edition DVD.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to make an action movie that's not constant action, and
Yeah,
Well, the other trend that I find, and not saying it's a bad trend by any means, I think it was the right thing to do, is that you never see credits at the beginning of a movie anymore.
no, no.
And I wonder if some of that is because when you see like, oh, blah blah blah, as you know, like say if you were watching Big Trouble in Little China, whatever, as Lo Pan, and you're like, oh, okay, there's a guy named Lo Pan in here.
That's Victor Wong, actually. I believe. I'd have to double check, but I believe it's Victor Wong.
But
He used to be a stand-up comedian.
and I just wonder if there.
One other minor side note: despite the way the guy sounds, he was born in San Francisco. He's not from China.
But no, I just wonder if that's a trend, just because it does kind of take you out of the immersion of a movie, versus seeing all the credits and seeing all of the
Yeah, well, that's because what are they called? Credits. It's because you're giving credit. Like if you ever watch The Wizard of Oz, like they're all at the beginning because I'm sure their contract was put it at the beginning, and at some point the studios were like, "Look, people are just showing up late to the movie. Let's put them at the end. They're still there, but whoever wants to see them can see them." And they still, they'll still have the little bits, like in Big Trouble in China. Kurt Russell is Jack Burton,
yeah.
and I don't know,
Well,
whoever else in the movie.
And the movies did it right. They said, okay, if we want people to actually see the end credits, we'll have the actors listed, and then we'll have a mid credit cutscene so that everybody gets to see the actors. And then if people want to stay to the end, then we'll have an end credit.
So you know what one of the earliest ones of those was, right?
No.
It's Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh yeah, because you're still here.
Yeah, and that's why that scene is in the Deadpool movie also. So yeah, that's why at the very end of it, Deadpool's like, chicka chicka, because of the song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been talk of remaking Big Trouble in Little China. I hope they don't.
No.
And no offense to The Rock, 'cause he's the one that keeps saying is going to be in it. It's that there's just no way they could make that movie now.
No, there is offense to The Rock. There's at some point he just needs to, find,
Turn into a boulder and roll away.
or be in a more serious role. I think he tried that with the skyscraper movie.
I never did see that, but I got that impression from the trailer.
Um,
Yeah. Skyscraper review coming soon.
Doubtful. No, because he needs to do like Batista. Like Batista doesn't have a great acting range, but he has tried other parts. I will definitely give him credit for
well,
that.
he's in that new M. Night Shyamalan movie.
I haven't seen that yet. I'm more interested in Dune Part 2, where he will continue to play the Beast, Raban. He'll finally be joined by I believe it's his brother, Fade. And we'll get to see Baron Harkonnen's incredibly creepy obsession with his nephews. Well, one nephew, anyway.
Well,
He will not be played by Sting in the metal bikini in this one, though. Kind of a letdown.
dang it.
Yes, for those of you who have only seen the newer Dune movie, you really need to watch the one from the 80s by David Lynch. It will probably have Alan Smithy listed as the director, not David Lynch, but he's the one who directed it. Alan Smithy's a pseudonym for whenever directors don't want their name on a movie. But it is spectacular. Kyle MacLachlan, Patrick Stewart, and Jurgen Prochnow, and a bunch of other people, if I could think for a moment, but I'm not going to because we're really diverting at this point. But yeah, the new Dune movie was great too, though. Far more with the book. So I have high hopes for part 2. It looks good.
Now the question is, how the hell did we get here with an Indiana Jones movie review? I don't know. I'm just kidding, just kidding.
Some of those movies are in the desert. Dune's in the desert. I don't know.
But no.
Yeah, I remember the one thought. Indiana Jones did actually use his whip in the movie.
Yes, and then people promptly pulled their guns out and showed how stupid that would be.
Well, I do like how we've had multiple versions of essentially the same scene in these movies now. Because in Raiders, we've got the Cairo swordsman who's wanting to try to fight, and he just blows him away. Then in the Temple of Doom, he comes across the two guys with the swords, and he's like, oh, and has to use his whip instead. And then we have this one, and I'm pretty sure there was a scene in one of the other two that was kind of like that also. But this one where he pulls out his whip, and instead everyone pulls guns on him. Yeah.
Nice reversal of roles.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I don't know. That's most of what I had to say about it. Oh, no, there was one other thing. Sorry. I keep saying that. I really shouldn't. It was interesting to see that the Spear of Destiny at the beginning of the movie was a fake.
Yeah, because that would be a common thing that archaeologists would run into. Is like, oh, we found this. Oh well, it's a fake.
Yeah, and like at first, I thought the physicist just stole it. I didn't realize that he had figured out it was fake. And then Indy catches it, and I thought, okay, well, he's got the real one, and Indy's got a fake. And then he's like, no, the thing's fake. Like, it's an alloy that's only existed for 50 years. It can't be a 2,000-year-old Roman spear. And, yeah. I just thought that was an interesting subversion. And the fact that the thing this time is totally not a religious relic at all. And not the province of interdimensional aliens either.
Yeah.
Well, but the crystal skulls were, though, religious relics.
True. But we know from the other movies that somehow Christianity, Judaism, and Hinduism all are apparently real. With verifiable proof.
Yeah, yes, because the artifact this time, the Antikythera, used to locate space funnels in time.
Yeah, temporal funnels. Yeah.
Apparently, it's actually existed, but it was used for maritime navigation.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what they tell you.
That's right.
I assumed is it based on the thing it was from a wrecked Roman ship?
Yes.
And it took them forever to figure out what it was actually for, and then they finally pieced together that it's for navigation because they didn't think anything that complicated could have existed at that point. And it's kind of some similar principles to the thing that I believe was also Archimedes designed that allowed the Romans to measure the distance for their roads. It had all the internal mechanics that would start as you start rolling it. That would tell you where the mile markers were, and so that's how they were able to place the mile markers. Some of which are still standing, because some of the Roman roads are still in one piece. Even though if we go down to Evansville, most of theirs aren't. 2,000-year-old roads, just fine.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, Indiana roads, not so much. Oh yeah, there was the one character that did ask him. That was another funny thing. Did you know the Wright brothers? They grew up in Indiana. Like, I'm not from Indiana. I thought that was kind of funny. Along with they were born during the Civil War. How old do you think I am? Of course, when I sat there doing the math, and I'm pretty sure in the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, he's in World War I. Like, he had to have been born in the late 1800s, right? He was in World War I, because it was going during, roughly 1915, if I'm thinking correctly here. So, to be 20 at that point, he would have had to have been born in 1895.
He's probably actually 110, drinking from the Grail, extended his life out.
Probably.
Also, apparently gave him resistance to bullets, which in these movies are always one shot you're dead.
Yeah. Unless you're Indy. He gets shot frequently. They got shot twice in this movie. But, yeah, no, and I did like the one comment. It was a callback to his dad. I think it was Helena who said it what, you don't follow the things your dad obsesses over and try to complete them, or something to that effect. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. That's exactly what he did in the Last Crusade. He's the one that found the Grail. And his dad was the one that was obsessed over it. I did like by that point that he kind of accepted that all of that was real, though. Because the Temple of Doom technically takes place first, And so whenever he goes to look for the Ark, he's like, "Ah, it's a bunch of superstitious mumbo jumbo." And I'm like, "You powered the channel. You channeled the power of the Shankara stones. You fought a guy who could tear people's hearts out of their chest, seal the hole, and they still alive. And this is all just hokum mumbo jumbo." I was like, "Come on now."
Well, that's why he had to go later and say that the Force is all real too.
Yeah, yeah.
Every bit of it.
Funny thing is, it's all real.
The stories are true.
Yeah.
Every bit of it. That's not how the Force works.
There was one
Go ahead, Owen.
mildly odd detail. At one point in the beginning, few minutes, he there's a German driving a car, and he knocks him out, hops in the car, and then two officers hop in right behind them.
Don't see the body of the guy.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that because I was like, it took me a second. I was like, didn't he throw him out the door? Like, isn't the body just sitting right there? It's not that dark out. There's lights here. Like,
Well, they were too engrossed in their conversation.
yeah, das ist gut. But
Oh, but you know, the movie had to move forward. There's always going to be those kind of like, what the hell just happened there? That should not have worked. But
you mean like in the first Jurassic Park, the T-Rex enclosure? How like whenever we first see it, it's on level with everything, and then the car somehow goes over a cliff when there was no cliff there.
they actually explain that.
Steven Spielberg said he didn't think anyone would care.
Yeah.
That's the explanation.
Because the idea is that it's supposed to ramp up to
Yeah,
where
sure.
the feeding.
I'm sure, but like if you look at that tree, there's no way it's like that.
No. It's.
And to Spielberg's point, he's right. No one did care for like 20 years until people were like, "Hey, in the 5,000th view of this movie, I can't help but notice this."
When suddenly everyone became critics.
Yes. I don't know what Owen's talking about there, though. Just to be clear.
Yeah, we're not. No, we never critique anything on this channel.
No.
Nothing but sunshine and rainbows.
Although talking about the older movies, one of my favorite parts in The Last Crusade is when they're down there in the catacombs, and Elsa's like, "Hey, what's this? Ark of the Covenant? You sure?" "Yeah, pretty sure." It's like, yeah, he would be. Yeah, not to plug into the site, folks, but if you haven't seen the honest trailers for the original Indiana Jones trilogy, it's pretty good too. Because I don't agree with their assessments on everything, but I think Last Crusade is pretty well a flawless movie. It's not that movie's fault. It wasn't, in fact, The Last Crusade. That was more, another movie's fault involving a kingdom and a crystal skull. And now this one.
Well, I mean, technically, it'd still be the Crusades,
It was The Last Crusade.
Yeah, I'm just saying it was supposed to be the end of the series. So
it is. These are fever dreams.
Fever dreams.
These are fever dreams that
like
happen.
the Star Trek, like the Star Wars trilogy, the sequel trilogy.
No,
Yes.
I got an explanation. That's the end of the main trilogy. These are just spin-offs.
There we go.
So I guess the question is that do you feel that Wombat will be able to
No.
pick up the role? Are we going to call it Wombat Shaw in the whatever? If they're going to, they might as well. They might as well. They just might as well embrace that name and just everything,
Well, maybe she can really pick up where they left off. It'll be Wombat Shaw and the Spear of Longinus.
This belongs in a museum. No, it belongs in a...
Belongs in Marrakesh at an auction. What? An interesting subversion.
Hey, I'd watch that kind of a movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's got potential, like a one-off, but
Well,
And the villains are still going to be Nazis.
probably.
I'd say actually Owen and I had a conversation today about another franchise that's about archaeology, and that I never have actually didn't see the movie yet for it, and that's for the Uncharted.
I watched part of the movie for that. I fell asleep somewhere in there, and Chris has told me how it ended, but
Well, if it's anything like the video games, the kill count that Nathan Drake has by the time he's done is like in the thousands.
Much higher than Indy.
yeah, I don't think it was anything like that.
And we're like, I mean, I get it's a video game, but it's like he's just like trying to recover some like artifacts. I mean, he literally kills entire bands of mercenaries and pirates and all sorts of
At the
people.
beginning of the first game, doesn't he barely know how to use a gun?
That I don't remember, Owen. But it's like, I'm glad that like with the Indiana Jones games, I think the only ones that they really have are they do have a couple for like the Super Nintendo and stuff like that. I mean, obviously it's
Well, I think if they really want to try to capture the feel of the old Indiana Jones movies, because that's what they're going for, they just need to switch to a different franchise and remake The Phantom. Or give us a sequel to The Phantom, still starring Billy Zane.
Uh,
I ever tell you what this thing I read about one time? Apparently he was in a Hollywood restaurant, was all pissed off at the waiter about something. He's like, "Do you know who I am? I'm in the highest grossing movie on earth." You know, talk about Titanic. And I guess the waiter said, "I wonder where the Phantom made that much money." I have no idea if that's true, but I read that one time and I was like, "My God, I would have paid money to see that." And I like Billy Zane, but man, that would have been spectacular. Well, I missed getting his autograph one time.
So Owen, what were you gonna say?
uh, Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings. This video game released right around like 2007,
Oh,
where
okay.
he tries to find a staff that part of the Red Sea Moses used.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Although I think it's a little late to try to adapt that now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you still got the Spear of Destiny. Like it's not in Nazi hands at the moment. So, although in like every other fictional thing, which is really beginning to make me think the real world too, apparently the Nazis always have it. So,
Yeah, well, I mean that's what in Wolfenstein BJ Blazkowicz was going after.
well, I mean, in Hellboy they had it, and they talk about it. You don't see it in the movie, and in Constantine they had it, and somehow hid it in like Mexico because the guy finds it there at the very beginning,
Yeah,
and
and
it's
then
wrapped up in the Nazi flag there.
and becomes possessed.
Yes, I thought I heard a couple of years ago they were going to make a sequel to that.
But Constantine,
Yes,
it's
Keanu.
it's confirmed.
Okay.
Yeah, there's yeah. At least I believe it's been confirmed. I've seen it more recently that
Well, the current kerfuffle in Hollywood might put a kibosh on that. We'll see.
The writer's strike.
Yeah, the writer's strike and the actor's strike. Now they're striking together.
well, and the writers, from what I gather, do actually have some reasonable grievances to strike about. I mean, from what I hear, the pay is
And you'll never believe the studio's ingenious plan. Wait until the writers run out of money.
Well, I mean, it's not a bad plan. Like the writers are going to run out of money way before the studios are.
No, well, I
well,
mean,
unless you're Disney.
I was referring to the other, fact of it being morally despicable.
Oh yes, it's very morally despicable. But I mean, if you're the business, like, are you really not going to explore the AI option? Like you have no obligation to actually employ people. I know that sounds terrible, by the way. I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying realistically, no company has an obligation to employ anybody. If they could do the whole thing, if they could do the whole thing with machines, they would do it. Now, the economy would completely collapse because like 10 people will have jobs and no one will have money. And like we'll be back to like bartering and using bottle caps or something. But uh, I've never actually played the game that's from, but it's Fallout, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I do have the internet, so I get the references. Uh, but yeah, so sure, of course, Hollywood sees Chat GPT. It's like, well, it's good enough to almost kind of write a D&D campaign, and our scripts suck anyway, so why not?
What they should do, if there's any movie that's going to be written by AI, it should be a movie about AI writing AI.
AI Inception. How many layers deep can we go into the AI? Well, AI writing the movie about AI. It's going to be starring AI,
Well,
played for AI.
I don't really like AI writing movies. Could I think AI could assist in writing movies? Maybe.
And that's, well, this is just like the news folks interviewing the Hollywood folks on the street. They just laugh at that idea. They're like, really? Like an AI writing a script and one of us polishing it is like, if that's bullshit. And I'm like, well, no, that's actually probably what they're going to do. Like the AI will come up with like the bare bones, and you'll go in and actually like massage it into a real script, but it'll do all the groundwork for you.
But I think it's a good starting point for ideas for new movies because I think The
Yeah.
problem is right now is that you're running into a lot of not new ideas coming out.
Well,
Hitting the same nail
that
over and
that
over.
that also came up in the Critical Drinker interview, where he's convinced that like creativity is dead. All it is circling the drain, just trying to find other older IP that we already have that we think kind of works, stapling on some new piece to it, and hoping for the best. Because the problem is, and this is exemplified by the Indiana Jones movie, the budgets are just out of control. The
Yeah,
budget for that movie is $300 million
and it
dollars.
doesn't look like a 300.
No, it does not.
What was the budget for the first Indiana Jones?
It's probably like $5. No, it's more than that. Obviously, I'm sure it's a couple $1,000,000, but
No,
uh,
no. Let's say if we go by our Star Trek budgets, I mean, a lot of those movies had like a 25 million to $30 million
yeah, they
budget,
were all in that range. Yeah,
and
except
I
for
could
Con had the short stick, and it's the best of the bunch. But
and let's even inflate that a little bit. Let's say that they had a $50 million budget. It, that okay, that makes sense. You're paying a lot of people. You're paying for promotion. You're paying for all that stuff. You're paying to get in all the theaters. 300 million. There's no way that things are going to be breaking even at that point.
no,
They're saying, "Oh, well, yeah, the movies are failing," and I mean, to that point, I believe they are because I know that I'm not going to the theater as much.
no. Last movie I saw before this was Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm pretty sure
So you're not,
the second time I saw it twice because
there's
there was nothing else on.
so they're just not putting as many people in the seats, and I think some of that is because people are realizing, oh, the the amount of time that it's in theaters to then being on streaming services is so low.
Yeah,
Just wait.
It's becoming shorter and shorter.
But
yeah.
but
Well, it's there. Once I think it's Universal literally has, I don't remember what the time frame they've got set for it, but it's weeks from the time it releases to the time they have it on streaming. And like they've said, hey, we're making money. We don't know what the rest of you guys are doing, but it's working for us. And so yeah, the other studios are trying to figure it out. Disney keeps playing with it. They don't have a set like, okay, it's this many days after the release. It's like, oh well, we'll see how it does, and then we'll figure out when it'll be on there.
well, what I've seen with Disney is they do a theatrical release, then they do where you can buy the movie
Yeah.
on digital, and then they do
And
the
the physical, yeah.
and then they do the physical. Heck, I keep forgetting that you can actually buy movies still.
Well, DVD, assuming this hasn't changed since I read the article, DVD is actually still the largest chunk of the home video market because a lot of people just never upgraded to Blu-ray and no one's upgraded to 4K. So
That's because I got my HD.
yeah,
The what was it? Because you had Blu-ray and then you had HD DVDs.
yeah, the red discs.
My HD DVD collection is just no. I never got into that. Um, Funny story though, my first DVD I ever bought was the original Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yeah,
And we did a review on the Dungeons and Dragons new movie. We need to go back and do a review on the original Dungeons and Dragons movie.
We'll need to rewatch it, but
Of course, we need to rewatch it.
well,
I only
you know,
watched it like once.
I saw it once in theaters.
Poor soul.
And then you gotta get doing on Darkest Dungeons.
Maybe. Yeah. So anyway, back to Indiana Jones. Do we have
No.
anything else on the topic there?
I think we're good. I think we're getting to the point of rambling at the moment.
Yes, I think we are.
Yes.
Not that that's bad, but
We need to save that for the podcast.
yes. So, on that note, depending on how many videos have been edited and put up at this point, we are tossing around the idea of making a podcast, and it looks like we're probably going to give it a go. And we'll also film it and put that part on YouTube. So, if you folks have any thoughts on that, let us know one way or the other. And what do you like of the format? Because it's going to kind of be like this or the X-Men video. Except we're going to have a couple different topics, and we're going to try to put a time limit on how long we ramble on them, so that we can get them all in say hour and a half, 2 hours, or whatever. That's the plan anyway. We'll see how it works out. I've got to find some software to do some of the parts of it, like separating the audio and saving just the audio. Because I can eliminate the audio, but I can't save the audio with my current editor. So I'm going to find another program or figure out what I'm doing wrong. So anyway, if that's all we got, then like I said, comments, we always love those. Like, share, subscribe, YouTube, you know. But other than that,
You were looking for an outro? This belongs in a museum.